Welcome to Vin and Mike, episode 22.
Yes, sir. We're back.
A little extra two. Hey,
Put
Mike.
that two in there. Put that two in there.
That's right. 22, man. You know, I think we talked about this, with episode 10, how 90% of podcasts don't make 10 episodes. I didn't look up the numbers at how many make 20 and so on and so forth, but we're in a minority of podcasts that are keep going and keep getting stronger and have a real good following, a real good audience, and all that fun stuff. So it's been exciting, real exciting.
It's been awesome, and we've gotten a lot of compliments on our new logo.
Yeah,
which is a caricature of us right behind Vinny. You'll see in our Instagram.
Yeah.
Make us look more lively. No, it's great to see you.
I do remember when we did take that photo. We were at the good old Piggyback there in Jersey City. That no longer there, but it was one of the cool places for us to mingle back in the day and talk sports and watch sports and all that fun stuff. But it's been a good ride so far. So I know
the Piggyback bar was the foundation of this show. That's how
probably. Yeah, I mean,
it really was.
We probably had a good 2 or 3 hour conversations in there about the Knicks or something that was going on that day in sports. So absolutely was one of the foundations of what we do today. So that's good. So how you doing, Mike? How's everything else going?
Everything's great. I had a great weekend, as you saw. I was at the Yankee game on Friday night against the Tigers in that blowout victory. Almost perfect game by Garrett Cole. It was awesome, but it's a funny story. I went with my buddy Brian, who's a big fan of the show. He loves your introduction, by the way. Welcome to Vin and Mike, just the staple.
That's it. Thank you, Brian.
But Brian's a big fan, so shout out to him. No, so we sat in a bunch of traffic. It's Friday night, and then we get to the game, and security, it took forever to get in. But once we got in, we were actually in the 400 section. But as we were going up the stairs in the 300 section, we stopped at kind of the food truck over there. And there's a place that you could stand and actually watch the game that has all these awesome views.
Yeah.
So we were able to do that. It was a perfect night. And we just saw an amazing hitting display. I mean, that's what it was. I think Judge was 4 for 5. I mean, it was crazy. I think everyone got hits that night, aside from a couple. I think just Donaldson, but everyone else was hitting the ball. And we almost stayed for a perfect game. So what could be better than that? Friday night baseball, beautiful night in the Bronx. Really glad that we went. Yankees have been on fire with that sweep of the Tigers, and it's just been awesome to watch what this team has done with the lineup, with the pitching, the hitting. They're doing it all right now.
Yeah, and it seemed like every pitcher on the Yankees almost threw a perfect game last week.
I know.
They had so many games that they all looked amazing, and they continue to just starting pitching has been great. Bullpen, they got some injuries now and need to revamp it. But like you said, Judge has been phenomenal. He's probably the front runner for MVP in the American League. So yeah, they've been doing a lot of great things. And glad you had a good time in the Boogie Down on a Friday night. How was the after game stuff? Did you go to any of the bars around the corner there? Any of the after game hangouts?
Since we're old timers now, Vin.
Yeah, I know you can't even go.
What you would say is the old millennials. We left after the 8th inning to beat traffic. So
yeah, I don't blame you, especially in a 13-0 game on a Friday night. So that's good. But you know what I forgot to do? Our Viggy commercial. Wait. Let me grab our sponsor, our partner. I can't forget that. Holy cow. That would have been bad when I got paid this week. Vin and Mike is now brought to you by Viggy Bets. Check out Viggy Bets on Twitter and Instagram at Viggy Bets. If you DM Viggy Bets now that you're a fan of Vin and Mike, you'll receive a 14-day free trial with a new VIP membership. And like I said, the handicapping has been picking up. I know Viggy's been doing a lot of good stuff like he always does. And our friend Dan Hernandez, who I spoke to at our Vin and Mike happy hour, said that, he does a lot of the no-run first inning and yes-run first inning and really enjoyed our 2 episodes with Viggy Betts that he's listened to. So a lot of good stuff that we're hearing from people that are listening to the show, and guessing signing up for some memberships, which is kind of cool. So it's really good to hear. But talking about money and all this stuff, let's jump right into it. I think it's been real interesting where contracts are going in all sports, and I like to start, with Aaron Donald, who just got a 2-year extension, a $40 million raise on top of the extension. It's a 3-year, $95 million deal when it all comes together. It's basically 33 million a season, the highest non-paid quarterback in the NFL, which we know, the quarterbacks are always going to make a ton of money. But we're in 30 million plus with a defensive tackle, and rightfully so, the best defensive player in the NFL right now. But we're at some numbers that it's getting crazy. I mean, it's getting really insane. What are you thinking about when you see Aaron Donald with that kind of money and what we're seeing with a lot of these quarterbacks?
Oh, what's funny, Vinny, is that he was supposed to retire. He was thinking about retirement. I'm glad he didn't.
I think his retirement, quote unquote, was forcing them to give him this kind of contract. I mean, that's really what it comes down to, in my opinion.
Now, we were having this discussion. I mean, the caps and the money that these quarterbacks and just all these NFL players are astronomical, right? So where's all this money coming from? We know the NFL is a huge revenue generating organization, but now we talked about all these networks coming in with the NFL as well. So when you have that, it has different streams of revenue that you're able to pay for advertising, and that helps the players. So this is where all it's coming to. And are they worth it? Yeah. I mean, listen, it's you got to keep your team sturdy. I mean, he's a great player, and these quarterbacks too. We talked about the AFC and what it's looking like this year. You got to be competitive, and you got to pay these players. So I think it's all relative, Vinny. What are your thoughts? Do you think it kind of lands where it should with these players to keep things competitive?
Well, I'm hearing, I don't know if it's official, but I heard one of the Waltons, from Walmart, one of the heirs is going to be the person buying the Broncos for $4.5 billion. And that's the Broncos, right? In Denver. It's not a huge market. It's not, it's just to show you how big the NFL is. We know they have all the revenue sharing and all that, but there's still a value to the market you're in and all that. And $4.5 billion for a team in Denver, when you look at, I think, the Clippers and the Lakers and the LA Dodgers, all those LA teams that were bought more in that $2 billion range in those respective sports, lets you know how big the NFL is, at this point. And you made a really good point with these TV deals. There's a lot of competition now. Amazon is paying, I think, $1 billion a season for the Thursday night football game. It's one game. I think they get 16 weeks of football, so they're paying them, the NFL $1 billion plus all the stuff that goes along with that, hiring talent, doing all that on top of what they're paying. It goes back, as you said, into the advertising money, how they bring in advertisers, bring in new revenue streams for themselves, new subscription members, all this stuff. But they're one of many different outlets now that are making bids for games. It's not like when we were growing up, where it was CBS, NBC, ABC, then Fox came in a little later, and then eventually ESPN. There's just so many outlets now that are bidding on this stuff. And we see it in baseball, the Yankees on Sunday morning on Peacock at 11:30 a.m. They have their Friday night Amazon deal. There's the Apple deal with Major League Baseball. So there's so many streaming services out there. In turn, you got revenue. There's revenue sharing in the NFL. The players get X amount, which goes into the salary cap and contracts and all that. And in turn, that's why you can pay your best players an exorbitant amount of money. But it falls under the cap. The cap is growing every year. We know the cap went down because of COVID and the lack of revenue in that year. But we're going to propel over the next 5 years. These deals are going to be huge. They're going to be astronomical for all these franchises, and you're going to see players get paid a lot of money. And I think it's a really good time for you to be in sports if you're a professional athlete. And I think we're seeing that even now in golf, which real interesting how, I think it's the Saudi-backed LIV tour, which, we know, the Saudi-backed oil money, all that stuff generates a tremendous amount of money, and they're paying Phil Mickelson $200 million to show up at golf tournaments, right? It doesn't matter if he wins, loses, draws, doesn't even matter. He's getting $200 million. I don't know how long that contract is, but, that Dustin Johnson resigned, I think it was today, from the PGA Tour. I'm hearing he's getting $125 million from this LIV, entity. And I know Kevin Na, a lesser golfer, is also going to be part of that. I heard it's 54 holes. It's not 72. If you finish dead last, you still get paid, different than the PGA. So like PGA, you don't make the cut, you don't get paid. This one, I heard you get 120,000 even if you finish dead last. So, guys are going to get paid a lot of money, and it'll be interesting to see if, you get these foreign investments or other investment companies. And we know, the XFL, USFL, they've all tried with the NFL. I don't see that. But what about Major League Baseball? What about the NBA? And I think baseball becomes an interesting one when I think about this, because you're put into these restrictions, right? You're under control by the team for 6 years, and you're limited in what your salary. Let's just say a Saudi-backed baseball league opens up, and they say, we'll pay you, $100 million for 5 years. You could come right now, and you're no longer, restricted to Major League Baseball's contracts and all this stuff. So it's something that they're gonna have to pay attention to and be very aware. But at the same time, hey, these players got great opportunities to make a lot of money, and that's really what I'm seeing.
Yeah, no, without a doubt. And the whole point is, I think Mickelson even said this, he's not sure if they're even going to succeed, but just the idea of it allowing them to get things done and start something fresh, that's what he's happy about. Just a different kind of golf, and he's grateful that the PGA Tour, what the PGA Tour has given him, and he's given back as well, but now he's excited about this new venture. So
right. If someone paid you $200 million, you'd be very excited about the new venture too.
Oh, of course. Money talks. Money talks. You know that. So.
Yeah. And they're also able to, continue doing all their outside, portions of things, right? Sponsorships and all that. I know there's a lot of controversy behind this golf league because it is Saudi-backed and all the human rights violations and all that stuff that comes along with it. But, we know the NBA has been in bed with China for a very long time and has never done anything. The United States itself, all the stuff we still get manufactured from China and all this. So, private entity, private institution, sports is just gonna step out the same way. And we're addicted to sports. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. We enjoy watching sports. You see the amount of viewership, you see what goes on with sports, and at the end of the day, it goes away, the controversy, and you end up just watching the game. And I think we have an interesting golf league that's going to compete to try to get golfers away from the PGA Tour. So it'll be very interesting to see what happens.
I want to make a couple other points. I mean, sports has absolutely changed because even like 5 years ago, you didn't have the DraftKings or the Caesars or all these sports betting sites where they're getting revenue and partnering with these leagues. So that's a whole other stream. NFL by far is the number one generator for that too.
Yeah.
Now all these people who would have to used to go to somewhere to they would have to go to Vegas. I mean, frankly, or somewhere to, wherever has sports betting, right?
Yeah.
Or
offshore accounts.
Offshore can just do it on their phones right now.
Yeah,
So it interacts.
Tony Baloney around the corner,
It's just so much more interactive, right? The other thing I wanted to point out, I'm so happy that these college players are getting paid now and what they deserve. When we looked at the NCAA March Madness and Doug Eder, and everyone was using his name, and he was all in all these interviews, and then we saw him on the Buffalo Wild Wings. Good for him. It's deserved. If you're going to use their name and promote these players, then I'm happy that people are getting paid accordingly and what they deserve. It's a really good thing.
Yeah, and you have the transfer portal, and so guys end up having even more ability to take advantage of the NIL and go to one school and then transfer out and make money just to go to another school to play. So they're almost like free agents in sports in general. I heard a story about the freshman quarterback from Ohio State, Quinn Ewers. He actually skipped his senior year in high school, enrolled early in Ohio State, got $3 million for his name, image, and likeness, and now is transferred out of Ohio State to Texas and probably going to sign a whole new deal there. He's literally going to make like $10 to $15 million before he's even drafted for the NFL. And who knows if he's even going to do well enough at that college level to be NFL worthy. So I think a lot of these guys get opportunities, at that level that they didn't get to the next level. It makes me think about someone like Tim Tebow, who was a phenomenal college quarterback, national championship winner, Heisman Trophy winner, but his game didn't translate to the next level. So not saying he didn't, we know how popular he is and the money he made away from the field, but think about what a guy like Tim Tebow would have made at Florida back in the day with Urban Meyer as his head coach and all that stuff. He would have, his name, image, and likeness is great now. Can you imagine while he was winning national championships and all that stuff he did and how popular he was back then, what kind of money he would have generated all the way up until his NFL career. So, I think it's great for those kind of guys. I just, just got to be careful with, the shadowy figures behind a lot of this stuff, making sure that everything is still on the up and up and they're doing things the way the NCAA set out the rules and all that, and that they continue to do things right. Because you really got to remember, these guys are 18, 19, 20 years old. They're very young. They're making millions of dollars. There's taxes to be paid. There's things that you have to do to make sure that you continue to progress moving forward. So hopefully they get hooked up with the right people, do the right thing, make sure that they're taking care of all those other things that come along with it, and keeping themselves on the straight and narrow. It's a lot of money for young guys. You think about when you were 19 or 20 years old, and if someone gave you $3 million, what's the first thing you're thinking about? Ferraris and all this stuff. So hopefully they keep everything the way it should be and progress. But yeah, I'm happy for them. I think it's great. And like I said, it's the best time to be an athlete in sports right now. The money is as a freshman in college all the way up until whenever you decide you don't want to play sports anymore. I mean, LeBron James is 37 years old, which in this day and age is a young guy. In sport it's old, but in life it's a young man, and he's a billionaire. And all he's done is played basketball, right? I mean, it's great, and
even to take it a step forward more, it's not even about getting into the professional level. Even some people excel in the collegiate level, right? But they just don't make it to that professional level. Yep. They're great college players, but it gives them an opportunity to earn income before whatever else they did. Whereas back in the day, some people, they just didn't have a future. So it gives you an opportunity to really save and do where you couldn't do that.
Yeah, and you got to remember, it's not just football, right? It's the NCAA. So if you're a top soccer player, a top baseball player, a top basketball player, lacrosse, you can go through the whole sporting thing. You can use your name, image, and likeness where you're really popular. You take one of these wrestlers that wins, 3 national championships. You hear about it at the end of ESPN, the 11 o'clock edition. And you're like, oh, who's that guy? Now he's got maybe a little path for him to make some money, and before he moves to that next level of his career, because there's no professional wrestling leagues, right? I mean, WWE is entertainment. That's not real wrestling. But, he could go into mixed martial arts, but, that's mixed martial arts. It's maybe not something he wants to do. Wrestlers sometimes don't want to get kicked in the face or punched in the mouth, right? But now he has an opportunity as a world champion NCAA wrestler to, maybe be part of Wheaties or Gatorade or whatever that next step is for them before they move away from college, and they can at least, like you said, make money for what they deserve. And again, you're over 18 years old. You're quote unquote an adult, and you have the right to earn money. I mean, that's just really what it comes down to. So, with all that being said, let's move to the nuts and bolts of sports, and let's talk a little Celtics Warriors. As we head into Game 3 tomorrow, I'll tell you, I think one of the things I've been impressed with early on has been Steph Curry. Here he is, 34 years old. He's basically carried the Warriors on his back in both games on the offensive side of the ball. Klay Thompson has been bad in both games. I think Poole had a pretty good, second game off the bench, which they needed, but his first game was bad. Wiggins, I don't know. He sometimes, it's like he's throwing bricks at the hoop. The way the ball comes out of his hand so hard, it hits the rim and like shakes like crazy. I mean, he doesn't have a soft touch. We know what Draymond is, and I think he was a big reason that Boston, slowed down in that second half of Game 2. And Boston's gonna have to be careful if Draymond is going to continue to play Jaylen Brown and continue to frustrate him, because he frustrated him. They almost got into it a couple of times on the court. They had to be separated a few times, and those are the things that Jaylen Brown's got to be careful with, to not get himself mentally out of the game, because they need his scoring. They need him to step up. But it'll be interesting to see that. And Tatum's going to have to play a little bit better going back to Boston. I think Boston's in good shape here. They split, which is all you really want to do. But you get a little nervous in the way Game 2 really played out, and you hope that doesn't continue moving to Game 3. I'd like to hear, what you're thinking about, what you've seen so far.
Yeah, going back to Game 1, I mean, people forget Tatum only scored 12 points that game.
Yeah.
And Al Horford, I mean, he really came through. He had all those threes. So, again, it was a different perimeter game where you got contributions from him. You got contributions from Jaylen Brown, Marcus Smart, Derek White. So all the pressure wasn't on Tatum. Then you go into Game 2, and the Warriors really made adjustments. And the adjustments that were made were defensively, the defensive coverage of the perimeter shooters. So then Tatum has a little better game, but all these other people were not coming through. And that's exactly – I think the Celtics were held to 38 points in the second half.
Yeah.
Right? So whereas Harford scored 26 points the first game, he had 2 points. Williams only had 2 points. Marcus Smart only had 2 points. So the Celtics have to get back to fundamental basketball, which they were doing in Game 1, getting more of that perimeter shooting and really utilizing Horford and these other players that have to get, like Pritchard and Williams, they have to get more involved. That's it. You can't rely on one person. I said this throughout the series. Yes, you need strong games from them, but they have to rely on the other shooters and really get involved and really work around this Warriors defense. If the Celtics just continue to rely on Tatum for his 30, 35 points, and these people are not stepping up, there's no way they're going to be competitive. But Vinny, I agree with you that the Celtics did what they had to do. They had to win at least one. Now they have the home court advantage, and they have to take advantage of that the next couple of games. And I think they could absolutely do it, but they have to go back to their game one fundamentals.
Yeah, they can't come out Wednesday and put a stinker up. If they do that, they really just take the whole momentum away from them. And I think you make a really good point in how Golden State really took the perimeter away from Boston in game two. They really D'd up on them. They played a much more aggressive defensive game. I think the refs made them play a lot of that. There was a lot of hard-nosed playing, not a lot of whistles on cheap calls and all that. I thought that was good. And Draymond said it after the game that, Steph runs the offense and he runs the defense, and he took it personally. I think that they fell apart in game one and really showed, the kind of defensive player and the mental aspect of the game that he provides. He really does those little things that frustrate players. He pushes guys around a little bit, and he takes it right to that edge of almost getting thrown out. He's that kind of guy that you hate playing against. You hate when you're playing against them. As a fan of your team, you don't like the guy at all. But if you're a Warriors fan, he's the guy you love. He's a guy you hope does all those little things, and I think that's what they're going to continue to try to do moving forward.
Yeah, I just want to say, let's not forget, in game two, there were 18 Celtics giveaways, including more in that third period. So that killed them, and the Warriors turned that into 33 points. So this, again, the Celtics, especially the second half of the season, what was great about them is they made limited mistakes. And they had, again, that can't happen if you're going to win a game. So that was a key indicator. That was just a huge problem for them in game two.
Yeah, the only thing that worries me is Clay hasn't gotten going at all. He's not had a shot. He hasn't had good looks. When he hasn't put him down. I would just worry that he has one of those games where he scores 25, 30 points along with Steph. And if that continues, then all of a sudden Boston can find themselves in a really bad place. They need to continue doing what they've done to everyone else and hope that Curry has an off game and win that way. And then in Jordan Poole, I thought he was a big X factor for them off the bench in game two. He's a very streaky shooter, but when he's on, he really gives them a lot off that bench, and I think that was huge for them in game two.
Yeah, it should be an interesting series. Remember, I said Celtics in 7. It could easily go in that direction. I think this is going to be back and forth. I could see the teams splitting these games, and it may come down to that final game. But right now, the Celtics do have the advantage being home and with their fans, and they just have to get back to what they were doing. And as you said, Vinny, in a good point, that Draymond Green has not, he has not played well. Clay Thompson as well. I mean, thank God that Curry's been producing, but these guys, if they play well and Curry plays well, the Celtics are not going to have a chance. So they just have to give them limited points.
So speaking of game sevens, and I heard through the grapevine that you're a little upset that if the Rangers go to a game 7, that the Justin Bieber concert is scheduled for that same day, and you as a believer will not be able to attend that concert. Is this true?
Couldn't be more false.
Oh.
But did you want me to say it's true so everyone knows? Yeah, that's the one thing I've been working. When I'm not thinking about sports, I'm thinking about a Justin Bieber concert.
I hear you're very excited now that
Vinny and I were going to go
the COVID restrictions in Canada have been lifted. He's able to float back around the United States.
So what happened? They scheduled his concert.
So in all fairness,
yeah.
You schedule concerts months out, years out sometimes, right? You don't look at dates of finals and all that stuff. So the Garden does what they would normally do is schedule concerts and shows in June, right? Because they can't say the Knicks or the Rangers are going to be in finals and still playing at that point. So, of course, revenue generating business, you schedule concerts. So the Justin Bieber concert is scheduled if the Rangers have to play the Lightning in a game 7. So they would have to, postpone it or move it or whatever. So,
it happens all the time.
But of course it's a big story because it's Justin Bieber. All of a sudden it's like, oh my God, everyone in New York, New Jersey can't go see Justin Bieber in concert because the Rangers, are in a game 7. So everybody's hoping now that tonight the Rangers will win game 4 and then come home for game 5 and get rid of the series 4-1. And you can go see Justin Bieber for the 43rd time in your lifetime.
Maybe it's meant to be that they know the Rangers are going to win because they don't have to worry about a game 7.
That's right. And I tell you, I've been very impressed with the Rangers. Very impressed. I really thought they were going to win game 3. They were up 2-0 in that game, and they really have been playing tremendous hockey. But again, the Lightning are 2-time defending Stanley Cup champions. They showed that in game 3. A lot of grit, a lot of determination. Came back, scored the really late goal. I think with about 40-something seconds to go, and won that game 3-2. But I really love the way the Rangers have been playing. It's been exciting around here. Like I said, when the Rangers start doing well, New York City gets this different level of excitement. We know Colorado just swept Edmonton, so they're just waiting on the winner of this series. I know the NHL themselves would love the Rangers, of course, in the Stanley Cup Finals. The market, the New York market, ESPN, the ratings, all the stuff that comes along with having a New York team, in a finals, being there makes everything better for the sport itself. And around here, things just get excited. We're not ones that really talk about hockey that much, but we've been talking about it because of where the Rangers are, and it's just been exciting for me. Being able to watch these games. I'll definitely check out Game 4 tonight.
Yeah, I mean, what's better than playoff hockey? And Vinny, we said this because we're honest. We don't really during the year we haven't covered it too much.
No,
but being from New York, and we do enjoy hockey and what it's done for the market, it's just so great to watch. And when you're in New York, everyone's cheering for the Rangers.
Yeah,
and for the city. And don't forget, this is a team that had 2 major comebacks too in the other previous series.
Yep.
And then they play a Tampa team that's so stocked that they win the first 2 games. I don't think a lot of people saw that.
No.
But what we're seeing in hockey is it's all momentum. It's all about grit. And that's what the Rangers have right now. They think they could beat anybody, and they're doing it. So hats off to them, and really looking forward to this game tonight.
Yeah, and it's, Shesterkin has been phenomenal in goal. I think that's the other thing that's been the big plus. I think he's just been a little bit better. And when you have goaltending at that level, you win games. This is really what it comes down to. It's like great pitching in baseball. It's like playing great defense in the NFL. All that defensive side of sports usually is where your wins come from. There's that old statement, offense gets the glory, defense wins championships, right? So that's really where it's at for everything. I think that's where it's at for the Rangers as a whole.
I know we always, time to time, we get nostalgic in this program, and I'm going to get nostalgic again, just going to 94. Just what a time that was, Vinny, with the Knicks and Rangers.
Yeah, the garden was hopping, man. It was hopping.
And also the OJ chase.
Oh,
so you put that in.
It interrupted our NBA Finals.
I remember I was watching that game, and I said to my dad, I go, wait, put back the Knicks. I was so disappointed. I'm like, put it back. I can't
I think they if I'm correct, I think they put the Knicks back on, and then in the top corner they put the Bronco chase.
It was annoying,
right? I think that's what they ended up doing as time went on with that. That was just such a huge sports moment when you think about it, right? It's still talked about to this day. Here's O.J. Simpson, who was one of the greatest running backs ever to play. And post NFL career was so popular with his Hertz commercials and his acting career and everything, and the whole chase and trying to locate him. If you remember, he was quote unquote missing, and they were trying to locate him to question him in what happened, in the murders of Nicole Brown and Ronald Goldman, and no one knew where he was. And then all of a sudden, popping up on the screen, here's a white Bronco that his buddy AC Cowlings is driving, and OJ is getting followed and chased.
So
and
surreal.
And remember all the people on the side of the road that were just parked,
signs
but just parked like on the highway, waiting for him to pass by. I mean, it was the most insane thing, and there was no social media. There was
That's
no.
what I was just gonna say. It was a different time. There was no. So people didn't have cell phones and could put it on social media. It was nothing. You had to watch
TV, right? You had to put on your TV to get news back then, or you had to wait for the newspaper the next day. I remember, again, talking about sports, that USA Today on Monday was like the best sporting newspaper to come out. It gave you the entire recap of what happened weekend in every single sport, and it had all the stats in there for you, so you knew who threw 300 yards this week, because there was no red zone channels. That's why ESPN Primetime with Chris Berman and Tom Jackson back in the day,
that was the best.
It was like the best show to watch, because you got all your highlights and updates.
Is that still on, by the way? Does he still do that?
So he does it on ESPN Plus,
right, with
Booger now.
Okay. I like Tom Jackson. I like that whole.
Yeah, I don't know where Tom Jackson is now, but they were on for a long time doing that.
Those two.
Yeah, they were phenomenal. But you got to remember, we did play fantasy football back then, and that USA Today also gave us our stats to generate our numbers for fantasy. Everything was done by hand back then. There was no Yahoos or anything like that to play fantasy sports on. It was just an unbelievable time. You're making me really think about like all this stuff.
I had to bring it up because just what the Rangers are doing, it just brought me back to that time when it was so great for New York, because those two teams, the Knicks and Rangers, previous to Messier coming, and really previous to Riley coming to coach the Knicks, they were not in good places, both those teams. And also the city was not in a good place either.
Right.
So it's just interesting how that really just, in a way, I know it sounds crazy, but that happening with New York just really just put it, I think, at the next level. I do.
It started generating that Disney World feel that we have now in Times Square, which, back before then, it was a whole different Times Square prior to the 90s. But, you make a really good point where, the Garden was hopping. The city was starting to, take another level as far as cleaning up and bringing in a whole different way of doing things, and the way that it transformed itself. And you're right, the Messier coming to the Rangers,
that was huge.
It was huge. And Pat Riley finally taking over, the Knicks and bringing a whole different type of game to New York and getting the best out of those players. As like we always say, when you really look at those players, they're not great. But the Rangers made some great trades in '94 also to bring in some veteran guys like Esa Tikkanen and Craig McTavish, and brought in those kind of guys, those veteran Edmonton guys, so around Messier. and had Brian Leach and Adam Graves and Mike Richter, and just it was just amazing to see how good that Ranger team was. And if you remember, they played Vancouver in the finals, and Vancouver had Pavel Bure. I don't know if you remember Pavel Bure, but he scored, I don't know if it was that year or the year before, he scored like 70 goals in the season. He was a sharpshooting crazy guy. But just a quick tidbit on him. His brother is married to Cameron, what's her name? Candace Cameron, who was on Full House.
Look at Vinny with the pop culture.
How about that?
You get everything on this show.
There you go. I forget his brother's name, but his brother played hockey also. But Pavel Bure was like this sharpshooter, like he was amazing. Like every time he was on the ice, you just like panic, because he was just unbelievable with the puck, could score like at will. You have some of those guys now in the NHL. I think the NHL's changed with that. You don't have tremendous amount of guys that score that many goals, but back then, the Gretzkys and all those guys, really, Pavel Bure and Mario Lemieux, you can go through a lot of those guys that scored a lot of goals back in those days. But it was a lot of fun. But yeah, that series, the Rangers were up 3-1, and Vancouver won game 5 in the Garden, went back to Vancouver. They won game 6 there, and then it came down to that crazy game 7 where basically Messier and Leach were the guys. Your best players ended up the ones that scored the goals and really put you over the top. So it was just a tremendous year.
And fans were swaying with the whole 1940 chant going back to game 7. So that was so huge. You know what I was thinking about, Vin? Like 1940 from 94 was 54 years, right? Yeah. The Jets are getting very close to that. So.
Well, yeah, they're almost there.
I know. I was just thinking about that.
They're almost there. Another couple of years, right? 2023. It'll be 54 years. So
the Knicks are not far behind.
Well, the Knicks will just reach 50 next year.
I know.
And I don't see them winning an NBA championship next year. No. I don't see them winning an NBA championship in the next 5 years. The way the NBA is structured right now. I mean, the top 5 All NBA guys, right? We have Jokic, Denver, Giannis, Milwaukee, Luka, Dallas, Tatum, Boston, and Booker and Phoenix. I mean, who are we going to have compete with those guys and those teams?
They need to get an A player. This is a whole other conversation, but they don't have an A player. No. They do not have an A player. That is what's needed, and you have to trade for that. There's no A player.
Yeah, and some teams have 2 A players.
Right.
Golden State has 2 A players. I think Boston has potentially 2 A players. I know they have a bunch of good Bs on that team. The Knicks don't even have that many good B players when you really look at it. These teams have good, A and B players. Deep teams. Their benches are deep. So I don't know. I think we're going to be drowning in Nick's sorrow for a while here. Hopefully one day somebody at 26 years old will be a free agent and sign a 10-year, $5 billion deal with the Knicks, because that's what it looks like it's going to take to get somebody to come here.
I don't know. That's a whole other.
We're gonna end up with 39-year-old LeBron James and 18-year-old Bronny James playing together in New York.
Right. It'll be like Ken Griffey Jr.
in Seattle.
That's right. That's right.
But the only problem is Bronny won't be ready, and LeBron will be too old, so it won't really matter.
How many more years do you think LeBron has?
I think he can play until as long as he wants, honestly. I honestly do. But I think he's going to wait till his son actually does get drafted, play a year with him, and retire that following year. So I think his son's 17. I think he's going into senior year this year. So you got to do one. You got to do the one in college, right? So senior year, 2 more years. So figure 39, 40 years old, he'll step away. I mean, his knee's been bothering him. We know that over the last couple of years, but he still averaged 30 points a game when he was on the court. It's not like he's averaged 15.
Right.
You know, he's still averaging 30. I mean, 30. I mean, that's an enormous number. So
another question for you, kind of off topic, but it has to do with retirement. I'm curious your thoughts. With Tom Brady coming back from retirement, right?
Yeah.
You think this is like a 1-year type thing to see if he wins the Super Bowl or competitive, or do you think now that he's back from retirement, this could be like a 2-3 year stint? What are your thoughts?
I think he wants to win another Super Bowl. I think we've talked about it. I think the NFC is a good time for him to come back. I know the Rams are the best team in the NFC because they are the Super Bowl champs, and they still have a lot of guys around them. But this is an NFC that's weak at the top. It's pretty heavy, but Green Bay, I don't know what we're going to see from them. You look at the NFC East. Are you confident in the Cowboys or Eagles? Not really. And then you go to the South where he's at. The Saints looked good, but we're not sure about them. We know the Panthers are a mess. The Falcons are rebuilding. So, and then again, out west, the Arizona Cardinals, who knows what's going on with Kyler Murray out there. We know Seattle's rebuilding. So it's just San Francisco, who knows, right? So you really look at it. It's Tampa and the Rams, really, maybe. And you just put the Packers there because I think they did good things on defense, but you worry because they don't really have a true number one receiver and how things are going to work, with Rodgers and all that. So I think Brady saw that opportunity, thinks he's got a shot of getting back to the Super Bowl. And I think if he gets there and loses or gets there and wins, I think this will be his last year. If he doesn't, if he goes out the same way he went out last year, it's possible he comes back for another year. Just remember, he's got a 10-year, $375 million TV deal waiting for him to announce games, which, I would think he's going to take it sooner than later. I don't know. So I think this is going to be his last hurrah. I think he's going to make a really good push for it, and then walk away, win, lose, or draw.
Yeah.
So that's how I feel about that. What do you think? Same?
I feel pretty much the same. I feel he's just he's a competitor, huge competitor. I don't think he would come back if he didn't want to win the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Wants.
So let me ask you this. Let's go. We're on the football topic. Let me ask you this real quick. So, 24th lawsuit against Watson came out yesterday. Another same kind of scenario. The same craziness and everything. Again, it doesn't seem like crime was committed in this thing. I don't think there's any criminal complaints that are going to come out of this, but it seems like there's 24 women that are going to sue him. Yeah, I mean it's big. It's a big number. It's a lot going on. I think Cleveland. We talk about Baker, and I don't know if they're going to actively look to trade him because it's very possible that this all comes out. It goes whatever comes out of it. This guy could be suspended for a whole season. I mean, it's very, very possible. But at the same time, I don't know if Mayfield wants to play for them, even if he is suspended. So I don't know. I think it's just crazy what's going on in Cleveland. If he gets suspended for a year, he only loses $1 million off his contract. That was what was written in the contract. So they basically said, all right, we lose you for a year. Don't worry. You're still going to get your guaranteed $45 million minus one. So $44 million. I mean, this is a guy that might potentially not play for 2 years, and you're paying him this humongous contract. You don't even know how he's going to play being out of the league for 2 years. I mean, I think Cleveland has done some wacky stuff in their time. This might be the wackiest they've ever done. I mean, it's just nuts out there.
It is nuts. But I do agree, Vinny. You got to keep him at this point, especially with what's going on.
Yeah. If I was him, I would give him a real hard time now. I would ask for a contract extension.
Now's the time.
Right? I would say, listen, you want me to stay and play? I want another year.
Right, exactly.
You know,
especially with the circumstances.
Yeah, give me another year, or trade me.
Yeah.
Or cut me. I hear the Panthers are still the front runner for him if they could get him. But who knows? Who knows what's going on with that whole situation?
Time will tell.
Yeah. Deebo Samuel, I thought it was interesting today. Again, staying on the NFL since we're talking about it real quick. He showed up at minicamp, didn't hold out, nothing, despite wanting all that wide receiver, hundreds of millions of dollars that all these receivers got. He's making it a point that he's not a running back, that he is a receiver, because as we know, running backs make, $5, $6, $7 million a year, and receivers make $20, $25 million a year. Someone said today that he's the most dynamic player in the NFL with the ball in his hand. I think that says a lot when you think about it. I always found him to be one step away every time he got the ball from scoring a touchdown. It always seemed like he was just about to break it every time, and he did break it a bunch of times. But there was so many times he would get tackled on his the shoestring tackle, trip him up real quick. I think this guy is a phenomenal player. I think San Francisco should pay him and not send him to free agency or trade him. What do you think?
The other thing that I wanted to add to that story, Vinny, is Garoppolo stayed away from training camp, by the way.
Yeah. Well, he's not – I don't know if he's healthy, right?
Yeah, I was just told that recently. But I just think back that with all these I laughed to myself when you were talking about this, that he could have been a Jet. And I just laugh about it because he came so close to being a Jet. But I'm glad the Jets actually stayed away and made some really strong draft picks. So I don't know. It's gonna be interesting how he pans out. To me, it's like when you have this mentality of you want to be traded, you don't want to be part of the team, and then you just walk into mini camp. I just feel like something's lost. It's like I don't know. To me, it's just never the same, and I don't think the effort's going to be there like it once did. He's kind of just there to be there. So I don't know what's going to happen. It's just maybe it's a little too early to tell, but you understand what I'm saying. Just with the attitude that it's just to me, it's like he didn't want to be there. He only wanted to be traded. Now nothing happened, so he's there. And it depends on his attitude. Maybe he'll have the attitude, you know what? I'm going to outperform everyone and show these guys that I could be on all teams. I
don't think you want to be traded. I think you want to be paid.
Yeah. And
that's what he was trying to force. A.J. Brown forced himself out of Tennessee to get paid.
Right.
It makes you think, there's these other guys that are all coming up in their second, third years as receivers that are going to probably try to pull the same thing as time goes on. And the more times these teams give into this, the more guys are going to try to pull this. More times agents are going to try to pull this where, yes, you have to play out your rookie deal, but they want those guaranteed extensions in place 2 years beforehand. So it makes you think back. When do you make those kind of moves, right? You draft a guy let's just say you draft a guy first round, really good receiver. Let's just take Garrett Wilson, right, for the Jets as an example. He's going to have a 4-year deal. He's got a 5th-year option. Let's just say his first 2 years, fantastic years, 1,000-yard receiving, 10 touchdowns both years, makes Zach look like, superstar. And year 3 comes and he says, well, I want an extension. I don't want you to pick up my option. I want a 4-year extension, then. I think teams have to realize, yes, they still got 2 years under control, but they have to make a play to either A, extend them, or B, trade them. And I think teams have to extend these guys at that point. I think the biggest problem is it's guaranteed money, right? I mean, that's always the problem with the NFL. Yep. That's the problem with sports. Some of these guys in other sports, there's guaranteed money as soon as they sign the contract, and they sign these long-term deals, and they don't pan out, and then you're stuck with them for 8 years at $30 million a year, and the guy is, you got to pay him, and then you just sit there and wonder what you're going to do. I mean, I think it becomes, and I get it, guys deserve guaranteed contracts, but fans and teams, have to have, there's got to be some kind of recourse, right? I mean, I don't know how it works out, but there's just so much when it comes down to it.
Look at Kyler Murray. Again, all the shit on Instagram, right?
Yeah.
All the stuff about I want to be traded. So you're losing your fan base, right? You're already losing your credibility. People know you want out. So you have two options. You either just have a poor attitude, or you say to yourself, you know what? I'm going to exceed all expectations, because if I do want to get traded, I need to make myself marketable to other teams. It's like Julius Randle. Same thing, Vinny. Julius Randle, no doubt he wants to be traded out of New York, right? But he has to be marketable.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
there's a certain attitude as a professional that you still should have, and you should always put 110% no matter what.
Yeah. But you make a good point. Like, I don't know, Kyler Murray's last 2 years, he started out. You can look at it. Both years he started out great. I know 2 years ago he looked like the MVP of the league, and then fell off a cliff. Last year, the same thing. So why would Arizona want to give him any kind of extension at this point? He hasn't proven to them that he's a franchise quarterback that's going to lead them to the playoffs. That playoff game he played against the Rams, I think I could have played better. I mean, that was one of the worst games I've ever seen a quarterback play. He was terrible. Throwing the ball, being spun around. He looked like he didn't know how to play football. And you go back and watch that game, it's really bad. And you could see why Arizona is really hesitant about giving this guy franchise money to be their franchise quarterback moving forward. And I think you make a good point. He needs to go out and prove himself this year. But I see his point in that if he gets injured or something happens, he lose out on that potential guaranteed money. So that's why he's trying to get it now. But I think teams don't trust him at this point. He hasn't given you that feeling that he deserves that money. It's like Baker Mayfield too, right? Yeah. There's something about Baker Mayfield that teams don't look at him as a franchise quarterback moving forward. If they did, they would have traded for him.
In a second.
He wouldn't be sitting in Cleveland. $18 million. Everyone's like, oh, he's going to pay me. Listen, Aaron Rodgers is getting $50 million. Teams will be more than happy to pay Baker Mayfield $18 million this season if they think the guy can get them to the Super Bowl. They don't think that. And that's the problem with Murray and a lot of these guys. But it's different when it comes to receivers and linemen and the other positions, because the quarterback is the reason you make to the Super Bowl. Even though it's as unfair as that sounds, that's the way the NFL is looked at. So when a guy like Deebo Samuel, A.J. Brown, let's just say DK Metcalf, let's just say Garrett Wilson in a couple of years, the fan base wants you to pay these guys, right? Because this is the guy that's going to help us get there. He's going to make Zach Wilson better. He's going to make our franchise quarterback, continue to be a franchise quarterback. So I think there's more leverage when it comes to that with extensions, where quarterbacks, they get all the glory and they get all the bad stuff that comes behind it too. Right, they're the fault if you don't make it to the playoffs.
They're the nucleus of the team.
Yeah, and they get paid the most. I mean, $200 million salary cap and 20 to 25% of your cap
Aaron Donald
is going to one player. Well, the Rams look at it that Aaron Donald's the reason they won the Super Bowl last year, right? They look at Aaron Donald as the guy that really took over that game in the second half, really gave Joe Burrow a real hard time in that second half. So, and the guy is one of the best defenders in the history of the league.
Right.
There's not too many guys that have 3-time defensive player of the year and Super Bowl champions and all that stuff that comes along with that. So, guy's a phenomenal player. But we didn't touch, we didn't talk about the Mets. We might make Met fans a little unhappy, but I'm going to say real quick, I'm still really impressed with them. Without Scherzer, without DeGrom, they went out to L.A. They lost the first 2 out there, but figured a way to win the next 2. They played a really good game last night in San Diego and scored 11 runs last night. I think Pete Alonso is another guy that's starting to make himself look like a superstar kind of player. And I give him a lot of credit, and I know I gave Buck a hard time. You've mentioned him a lot.
I stuck up for him.
You stuck up for him. And I'm
apologize by the end of the season.
It'll be a Matt Stafford incident with me, as we know, and I'll end up apologizing to Buck as he's losing the World Series to the Yankees. But that's besides the point.
He also made that nice compliment about the Jets that we will beat New England this year. Why not? I love that.
Yeah, that's right.
One other thing with the Mets, real quick, to make it clear, is that this road trip is so crucial for them. Because they're playing 4 out of the top 10 the best teams in the MLB. So it's a huge indication, especially losing the first 2 of the Dodgers and be able to get back to their successful ways. I mean, that just proves the kind of team. Again, they have grit. They're fun to watch. The hitting's there. The pitching's there. And if they could be successful on this road trip, there's no doubt in my mind they could continue and make the playoffs and make quite a run. So.
Yeah, it's exciting. June in New York is exciting with the Rangers, the Yankees, and Mets. We're really pumped up going into June here, and hopefully we continue to have this all the way into October when football starts and the Mets and Yankees are still doing what they're doing now. But been good, a lot of fun. So, let me ask you before we sign off. Tomorrow night, Celtics, Warriors, where are you going?
I'm going Celtics. Because I believed in the Celtics that we're going to win the series. I believe that they did what they had to do in Golden State. I know last game was not good for them, but I think they have great coaching. I think they'll be able to make adjustments, and I think they'll get some balanced scoring. Game 3 of the Celtics.
Very good. You know what? So real quick before we sign off, I heard an interesting way of betting teams that are underdogs in a series. So let's say you wanted the Celtics at plus, what was it, 130, 140, whatever it was. They say don't bet that. Bet the best player on the team to win MVP because you end up getting like plus 400, plus 450 for like Tatum to win MVP. So if you feel that the Celtics are going to win, don't bet that money, bet the MVP instead, and you'll end up getting more money that way. Because a loss is a loss. So if they lose, but Tatum should still, would win the MVP if they win, right? So something to think about, for our audience in the future.
Smart, always a light bulb.
That's it. All right, Mike. I think we've talked a little over an hour here, and we'll sign off. 22 episodes down,
2-2, baby. 2-2.
We're excited about where we're gonna try to bring on some special guests here in June. Hopefully, they agree to the conversations we're having, and hopefully we'll have some pretty cool guests on this month coming up. But with that, we're done. Have a good night, Mike.
You too, Vin. Thanks, everybody.